We all crave a really tight low end, but if you're not in a well-treated room to achieve this, it's near impossible. It sounds great in your space, but instantly fails the car test. Wouldn't it be great if you had some go-to settings that fixed this issue once and for all? Well, I'm about to give you those settings, and in the industry, we call this the compressor cocktail. So you're at your studio, you don't know what the bass is sounding like because you haven't got massive speakers like I've got. So I've got some settings, I use them all the time on tracks where the bass is a bit flabby. I can hear what's going on, so I know that these work and I know these translate to any other speakers. This is going to save your low end. So I'm going to show you today with a dance track how to do it. Then you'll be able to do this on any type of music. It also works for band music where you've got a sort of flabby kick and stuff like that. So let's have a quick listen to what we're dealing with. Sounds okay, but it's not very well defined. So we want to get that so that we can hear the kick and the bass separate, and we want them to be really punchy. So first thing we do is we are going to get a low cut. Now I'm just using Logic's standard low cut. We want to do a cut at 20 hertz. Now I can hear loads of dance music people crying at the moment saying, but there's stuff going on at 20 hertz, I don't want to cut it off. But the fact is, it doesn't matter that you're cutting that off because we're going to add some again. What is this going to do? All the waffle that's hanging around under 20 hertz, it's going to move that away. Now, when you're cutting at 20 hertz, you're not just doing a straight down brick wall cut. You're doing a cut so it's like that. 20 hertz is here. So you are still getting some of this low end down to 0. It's not just straight down like that. Let's have a listen to the low cut and you can hear what's going on. When you're in a nightclub, I know that you want it to be smacking through, and that's why I'm going to show you the next thing that we're going to add to this. This is the FabFilter Pro MB. This is the Streaky compressor cocktail setting, which you can download from the link in the description. But for the moment, let me just tell you exactly how this is set up and why I've set it up this way. So what we do is the crossover point on here, when the track is playing, we can see on the screen whereabouts the low end kick is happening, because it's like always going to be a duck like that. Let me just show you. So you could see it was around that area here. So that's where we put the crossover point. So you need to use your ears, but you can also use your eyes because you can roughly see where the main bit of the kick and stuff is happening. And it's usually, you know, around the 100 point. So I wouldn't go any lower than 80 hertz, I wouldn't go any higher than 120. The next thing we want to do is go through these settings here. We've got it in dynamic phase, ratios 4:1, sort of medium knee. Then we're going midway attack and a fast release. We're obviously in compression mode. Now this output here, what we're doing is I'm just bringing this outside down halfway. Everything that this is affecting, it's taking away level from the sides. So this is just monoing the bass a little bit. I'm not going to go full mono, just knit a little bit because then it'll get it a little bit tighter. A lot of the times, a lot of the bass is mono anyway, but this is just to make sure. And now the settings up here. Now we want to add about 1 dB of gain. This range, so the amount it will come down, is around 3 dB. When it comes to this curve here, you need to use your ears because what we're doing, we're adding some level here. So in effect, we're EQing the low end. We're bringing up a dB of level in the low end. And then we use our ears here because if you can see, this curve is going all the way up to about 500 hertz. So there's a lot of other things that are going to get affected by the level coming up. But the great thing about this is when you're adding a bit of level in the low mids, that's where it adds some good weight to the low end and you get a nice smack going on. But it can also start sounding a little bit muddy. So that's why I'm saying you need to use your ears to like bring it in a little bit. Don't go too tight, but don't go ultra wide because if you've got vocals, if it's a guitar track, and you're going to start getting all the kind of low end of that coming in, and then you're going to have to start EQing in other places to kind of get rid of that. So what we're going to do, we're just going to then play with the threshold until we get it so that this is giving it some really good fast movement. Let me show you that. So So what's going on here is we've lifted the level in the low end, which counteracts what we did with the cut at 20 hertz. So we've got the cut happening, we're also lifting the level, so it's kind of counteracting a bit of that cut, but that cut's still there just to get rid of any kind of waffle that's going on. And because we've got this compressor moving quite quickly, then what that does, it just gives it a really nice smack to the low end. It's not being sort of moved by the stuff that's happening low down. But it's important to keep the movement going in the low end. We don't want to just have the compressor just ducking only. We want it to be moving up too, so that we get some movement and we don't lose all of the kick. But this is what makes it nice and tight and punch through the speakers. Which leads me on to the reason why this is called the compressor cocktail, because the next thing in our chain is we want an old type sounding compressor. I'm using a Fairchild from UAD. I just want the sound of it. I'm not going to be doing any compression necessarily with this. I'm just running through it, and what this is doing, it's going to be compressing the top a touch, but hardly any, because I'm hardly touching it. Because I've already got the bass under control with the previous compressor, this here is just going to be compressing all of the signal, which means that it brings it back together as a whole piece, but it does make it really punchy. But the sound of the compressor of the Fairchild gives this really warm, gluey sound, which just adds so much vibe. It's insane, and it works a peach every time. So for all the people that have had a go at me in the past when I've said if your needles are moving on your compressor, you're compressing too much, this is the reason why I say that. By just having the sound of the compressor and not using it to like do massive gain reduction. We don't want it for that, we just want it for the vibe. So first thing I'm going to do on here is I'm setting up the sidechain filter. Now, another word for sidechain filter is the detection filter. So if I have this at about 100, 150, it's not going to react from the frequencies below 150 or whatever I set it to. It reacts on the frequencies above. The reason why I'm doing this is because there's so much energy in the low end. Normally the low end will be the thing that gets detected first by the compressor, and then that's doing all the kind of hard work. We're already controlling that low end with the previous compressor. So this is joining it together in effect, which is kind of making the cocktail. I've got the time constraint to 1, which is quick, and then I've got the threshold. I'm just going to get it so that it's tickling it and then pull it back so the needles aren't moving at all. I've got these set on gain reduction so you can see, and I'm not touching the input gain at all. I just want to run through it, and I'll show you the difference between it on and off. Now let's listen to these settings on the Fairchild. I'll adjust as we go. Shouldn't need too much, just a bit of threshold. Let's hear how it sounds. So you can hear that cleans things up nicely, but I can also hear everybody out there screaming, what about the gain difference? So this is the next plugin, and you should always use this when you're doing A/B testing against stuff so that you're not fooled by any gain that's going on. On the output bus of here, I have metric AB. If I press match when the track's playing, it will then match the gain of the before, so that when we flick AB, I'll be able to hear the exact difference without any gain problems. So let's listen to how it sounds with the gain exactly the same. So now you can hear the bass is much tighter. If you want to try this out for yourself, the links are below where you can download the project. You can download my settings for the Fab Filter. And if you want to learn exactly how to master or mix, go to streaky.com. The next video coming up is me mastering in Ozone 10. So check that out if you have Ozone 10 or even Ozone 9.